I will be presenting on the 2001 film Ali, directed by Michael Mann, which depicts a 10-year span of the life of famous boxer Muhammad Ali. Before I get into the film itself, I think I should explain a little about how this movie came to be. In 1992, producer Paul Adagi optioned the movie rights to Muhammad Ali's life story. Sony Pictures signed a contract with Adagi once he convinced Ali that a film about him should be made. In 1994, John Peters joined in, and the two started to develop a film. An original script had been written by Gregory Allen Howard, but he was replaced by Stephen J. Vivelli and Chris Wilkinson, and the two focused on a shorter time span of his life. Will Smith was attached to playing the role of Ali and presented the script to director Barry Sonnenfeld, and the film was set to shoot in 1998. The date got pushed back to November of 1999, and Sonnenfeld was replaced by Michael Mann due to the disappointing box office performance of his Wild Wild West film. With the director in place, Will Smith signed a contract for $20 million and took a year to become just like the great Muhammad Ali. Throughout this year, he took up to 7 hours of boxing lessons a day, learned about Islamic studies, and took dialect training. In January of 2001, on a budget of $105 million, shooting began. As mentioned before, this film focused on a 10-year span from 1964 to 1974 in the life of Muhammad Ali. So much was happening in America during this time and can be seen in the film. When speaking about the 60s, it is sometimes referred to as the cultural 60s. It's a decade of events that begins with the assassination of President Kennedy in 1963. This event then leads to Lyndon B. Johnson taking office for the remainder of Kennedy's term, and then his own presidential election and the string of civil rights acts he puts into place. We see this the most in the film with a depiction of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., played by LeVar Burton. We also see Malcolm X, who played a large part in the movie, until he too is assassinated while Ali is driving his car and finds out from the radio and a man in the street. Another major event happening during this time was the Vietnam War and anti-war movements. In the film, we see that in 1966, Ali refused to be drafted into the United States military, citing that his religious beliefs were the reason, as well as his opposition to the war. This then led to his arrest and being found guilty of draft evasion and being stripped of his boxing titles. One of the best lines in the movie is after he's arrested and he's in a hotel room on the phone, and they ask him if he knows where Vietnam is, and his response is along the lines of course I do, it's on the TV. Southeast Asia, it's there too. Here I have a clip from the film. In the clip, we see Cassius Clay, aka Muhammad Ali, refusing to be drafted into the war. What we do not see is a scene prior when he's in the fitting room before an interview, and a producer asks where he is planning on basing in the war, that he has friends in Germany, telling him that he has been moved to a draft 1A and will be selected in the coming days.
Anderson, U.S. Army. Juan Ramondo Benitez, U.S. Army. Price Marshall Benson, U.S. Marines. Cassius Marcellus Clay, U.S. Army. Clay, I'm required to inform you that refusal to accept a lawful induction order constitutes a felony under the Universal Military Training and Service Act, punishable by 5 years imprisonment and a $10,000 fine. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Cassius Marcellus Clay. Cassius Marcellus Clay.
Federal Bureau of Investigation. Mr. Clay, you're under arrest for refusing induction.
this is me. No, you got to ask Chauncey Eskridge. That's my lawyer. He's in Chicago. No, I'm out on bail. No, man, I ain't never shot nothing in my life. No ducks, no geese, no deer, no nothing. Yeah, I know where Vietnam is. It's on TV. Southeast Asia. What, it's there too? What I think about who?
As mentioned before, evading the draft led to his arrest, which he appealed to the Supreme Court, and his case was overturned in 1971. Unfortunately, his titles were still stripped, and he lost 4 prime years of boxing. This is all played out in the second half of the movie, along with his comeback. His first fight back against Joe Frazier was known as the fight of the century. It was the first time that 2 undefeated boxers were going head-to-head. It went 15 rounds, and in the end, Ali lost to Frazier in a unanimous decision. He had fights after that, which he won, and then came the second fight against Frazier, where Ali was now the unanimous winner. Ali came out on Christmas Day in 2001. The movie grossed $14.7 million its opening weekend in about 2,500 theaters. In total, the movie grossed $87.7 million and lost about $60 million. The movie itself has mixed reviews. I have one here from Roger Ebert that says, Ali is a long, flat, curiously muted film about the heavyweight champion. It lacks much of the flash, fire, and humor of Muhammad Ali, and it is shot more in the tone of a eulogy than a celebration. It feels like an unfinished rough cut that might play better after editing. I think that for people that did not grow up in the time period of Muhammad Ali, it gives us a good representation of who he was. I personally had no idea he was known for anything other than boxing and his float like a butterfly, sting like a beak boat. But for people that grew up with him, the film might not have done it justice. It does feel like there is more to be said about Ali and his personality, but it is hard to 100% portray an actor. In the end, I think that the movie did a good job covering the 10 years of his life, especially in a time when so many different things were happening in the United States.